guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Morgan Thorne and I do BDSM education. I also live a kinky lifestyle. I just love kink. I love BDSM. It is fun. So today we are actually going to be talking about how you can take some first steps to become part of the kink community as well. So we're going to be talking about how to find a munch in your area. Before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys that if you are looking for some cool little BDSM themed things, I have a merch store. I will include a link in the description and in the first comment. You can get fun practice pillows like this lovely rear end pillow behind me. We also have a whole bunch of cute t-shirts and things like that. A lot of them are just kind of silly, tongue-in-cheek. We have our Keep Calm and Dom on t-shirts, and I'll just give a little bit of a warning here. I got an extra large in this tank top, and if you are like myself and very generous in the chest area, you are going to have to go bigger than an extra large, and that's why I'm not wearing the shirt because I'm pretty sure YouTube would flag me for adult content if I tried to put it on with my boobs. So, if you are well endowed, bigger than an extra large, just lesson learned. So, anyways, guys, go and check out the store. We've got lots of fun things. It's all very silly in that we have a lot of fun. Sage did all of the artwork for the t-shirts and the pillows and everything else. So anyways, let's get into our main topic here, how to find a munch in your area. So munches are one of those things we always that's going to be the first bit of information or the first bit of advice you get when you would say, how do I learn about kink? How do I get involved in kink? People will tell you, go to a munch. And you're like, but what and how and what? So a munch, I'm going to include a link to munch etiquette that I have a video on already, but a munch is just a gathering of kinky people in a vanilla setting. So we go to a restaurant and we hang out, and half the time we're not even going to talk about kink, it's just talking about life or whatever. There is no BDSM wear, there's no toys, there's no playing, nothing like that. It's very, very low key. Like I said, we're just going to a restaurant or a coffee shop or a pub or that kind of thing. And so the rules are, we call it the grandma rule, where you don't wear or do anything that you couldn't do in front of your grandma. Now, of course, that really does depend on who your grandma is, because I have met some really cool grandmas in my life. I hang out and go to kink parties at some grandma's houses, but you get the idea there. So don't worry if you're nervous about anything when it comes to a munch. It's just a bunch of people hanging out. The reason it's called a munch is it's a meetup and a lunch. That's how it originally started. And yeah, so it's really, they're a lot of fun, I think, personally. I used to go to lots of munches in the before times. I hope to go to lots of munches again now that things are not really getting any better, but everyone's pretending to get back to normal. I won't be going out for a little while yet. I do have an autoimmune disease, so still being cautious and all that, but hopefully once we can do some outdoor activities here in the great frozen north, there's a blizzard out right now, and if you hear lots of noise in the background, that is snow plows. So anyways, let's talk about different munches. Right now, there are still a bunch of munches that are happening online. So on things like a Discord server or on Zoom, that sort of stuff. And so you can easily join in that way if you are like me and still sheltering in place after 2 years. fun. But, or if you're just not comfortable going out to an in-person munch right now, maybe it's your first time and you feel more comfortable going online, you can do that. We've got those options now. This is one of the good things to come out of the pandemic, and it's something that I hope doesn't go away once everyone decides to get back to normal, more so than they are now. So the best place, personally, I think, to find, or not necessarily the best place, because as you guys have seen with the getting verified video for Fetlife, I have a love and hate thing going with Fetlife, but it is a really good place to find your local community and munches and things like that. So Fetlife is a free site. There is a paid option, but unless you want to watch videos, like that's, I think, the only thing that the paid thing gives you, and it gives you like a little badge next to your name. I don't know. I've never been a paid member of Fetlife. I never will be, because I have enough problems with the site, and I hear you guys that wanted a video about that. We will be working on that in a little bit. But yeah, we can, you can join Fetlife. It is free. I would suggest you fill in your profile. You don't have to have like a face picture or anything like that. I do have a video. I've recorded it. I just have to edit it, talking about how you can put a profile picture up that isn't necessarily a face picture. So we will have that coming up soon. But fill out your profile with a little bit about you, and I don't mean describing your genitals or the size of your boobs or whatever. I mean talking about who you are as a human, because we care about who you are as a person, not necessarily what you want sexually. So the profile is kind of important, especially if you want to continue on and join the community, because some organizers will use it as a part of vetting when you start getting to the point that you want to go to events and stuff like that. Munches usually are a free-for-all. They're open to everyone in the community. You don't have to meet any specific requirements to go. Unless, of course, the munch is specific. So there are like under 35 munches, usually called TNG, the next generation. So if you are, one of the olds, like me, you don't get to go to those ones. Or if it's like, a munch that is specifically for women and femmes, or a munch for submissive people, or, whatever it is. Like, so as long as you meet those kind of criteria, most munches are just general, everybody. And if it is a munch for a specific group of people, it usually says so in the name or whatnot. But yeah, so these kind of events are, like I said, they're very low key, and a lot of organizers will use them as a way to vet people and get to know you a little bit before inviting you to, like, their home for a kink party or things like that. So it is a really good way to get out and meet people. But anyways, back to Fetlife and how you can use it to find munches. All you need to do is click the events tab on the top of your profile or on the top of the page. The default is for near you, and now you can choose either virtual or in person. So if you have, this only works, of course, if you have put your actual real location into Fetlife. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. A lot of people will just put their country or their state or province or the nearest big city, things like that. That's totally fine to do. You can also put your city or your town into the search bar, and then it will bring up like all the kinky people near you, all the events near you, all of those kind of things. So then you can go and look at the events tab. You may need to look at a bigger city if you do live in like a really small area. You may need to go to a bigger city in order to find kink events. I personally live in a small city outside of Toronto, and we have quite a few events. There is, let's see, there's an event every week on Tuesdays. There's, events, especially in the summer, there's a lot more stuff going on, and it's challenging right now, of course, just because we are still at the tail end of the pandemic here, but a lot of different events are going on. Be aware, though, that if you look and you don't see any events, you shouldn't just like give up and be like, oh, there's nothing in my area, oh my god, because a lot of times organizers are only going to be posting the events like a week or two before the actual time that it's happening, just because it's a bit easier to keep track of and to, promote it that way and everything else. So, check back a couple of times throughout a month. Usually munches happen on the first Tuesday of every month or the last Saturday of each month or whatever. Typically munches are weekday evening events, just because it's it starts at 7, it ends at 9, you go after work, what have you, that sort of thing. But sometimes there's weekend munches. Sometimes, I know in Toronto there was a downtown lunch munch. So it was for the business crowd that were working down in the downtown core, and people would meet up for lunch there. Keep in mind too that events are user generated, so you do need to take things with a grain of salt. There will be some very silly events. Some events are basically an ad. I would never go to a munch, and I put quotes there because I don't think it's really a munch that's being held in a person's home. Usually munches are in public locations. There are some sort of dungeon groups that will hold the munch in a dungeon, but it's either a public dungeon or, a member's dungeon. It's not a person's home or anything like that. So just use your common sense. And if you're unsure, I would post in a local group and ask about it. So again, if you're from Toronto, post in one of the Toronto groups and ask. My rule is that, especially if I'm in a new area, I will only ever go to a public event. I won't go anything that's even remotely private or anything like that, just because I don't know the area. And I should also point out that you don't need to go with somebody to a munch. You can go on your own. It's perfectly fine. I have done it so many times because I travel, or I used to travel. God, I miss that. I will again be traveling, but I will go to munches on my own all the time back in the before times when I traveled. So quite often, various munch groups will also have a group on Fetlife, and you can go and check those out, and that way you can talk to people before you go and, not feel so nervous. I would also say that if you are feeling really nervous about it, you can always email the organizer. So on the Fetlife listing, it'll say, organizer, and you can go there and, contact them and just say, hey, I'm new. Can I meet you a couple of minutes beforehand? Or, can I introduce myself to you and then you can show me people or what have you? I know with a lot of the local munches, and especially the TNG munch in Toronto, and the Deviant munch in Toronto, those are two of the biggest munches that happen in Toronto. Both of them were really, really good about meeting new people and engaging them, or at least, it's been a long time since I went to TNG, but, I'm sure that nothing has changed all that much. But they were really, really good about, meeting new people, seeing when they came in, introducing them around. I know that at the Deviant Munch, they would often, if you were new, they would be like, oh, okay, what kind of things are you interested in? And then the organizers knew everyone at the munch, so they'd be like, oh, here, you could go and talk to so-and-so, and they would introduce you to people that had similar interests and stuff like that. So for instance, when I was at the munch, they would often bring by new people that were interested in, femdom stuff, or that were interested in medical play or that kind of thing. And it was a great way to get to meet new people and welcome new people into our community. So if you are a munch organizer, I highly suggest doing stuff like that. And I know it can be challenging. I've run munches myself, and it is sometimes hard to keep track of all the new people. So other than Fetlife, how do you go about finding these things? If you don't want to join the website for whatever reason, Totally understand. Reddit, Reddit has like really good stuff and really bad stuff. And it seems like no middle ground. It's either really good or really bad on Reddit. But you can search BDSM in your city, and there's always going to be, or not always, but there's often a subreddit for that. There's also the subreddit r/BDSM community, and that seems to have a lot of Munch updates. You could always, as well, if you see something like a BDSM community and it's sort of like a general interest one, you could always make a post asking if there's anything happening in your city. And again, just keep in mind that you may need to, if you are from somewhere really small, you may need to sort of expand a little bit and go to the nearest bigger city. Another great way to find stuff is through findamunch.com. So it's an international website. It's not always up to date. I know that last time I looked at it, there were munches that hadn't been run for about 5 years there. So do take it with a grain of salt. But it's a good way to point you in the right direction. And quite often, a lot of them will either have a mailing list or a website or whatever that you can go and check to make sure that they are still happening. You can always use other BDSM sites. So Fetlife tends to be fairly big in North America and fairly big in Europe as well. But there are other sites in other parts of the world that are bigger for BDSM. I, being from North America, being from Canada, I don't really know some of the other sites, especially ones that are not in English, because that is pretty much the only language I speak. I don't speak anything else fluently enough to, engage in this kind of thing in those languages. So I'm not really sure. If you guys do know any good sites that, especially that are not North America or European centered and non-English centered, please definitely let me know in the comment section. Just please be aware that you cannot post links in the comment section, so you will have to kind of break it up there. And finally, another great way to find stuff is to just Google your area, like my city, type it in Toronto or whatever, plus Munch, right? And that should give you a good idea of what's going on, if they have a website, if they have other web presences. For instance, my area has a site called ABC, and it's EHBC, because we are Canadian, eh? And it's abc.ca. And it covers Southern Ontario events and Central Ontario events, and it is run by a local person. So it's a really cool little resource. And again, it may be not always totally up to date, and it won't have everything because they do rely on people to email them and say, hey, I'm having a munch or whatever. Quite a few munches nowadays have their own websites and that sort of thing. So my question to you guys then is, especially for those of you who are a little more seasoned in the BDSM community, have I missed any way to find a munch? Do you have any other ideas about how to find other kinky folks to go and have a munch with? So please definitely let me know about that if I've missed anything. And for those of you who are new to the kink community, welcome. And I hope you have fun at your first munch. A word of warning on that, it can take a couple of times of going to really find that people are more friendly, because we are unfortunately used to what we call tourists. And those are the people that show up once expecting that we're going to be having kinky sex in the middle of the restaurant or something like that. And when that doesn't happen, they never come back. So we don't know if you're one of those people or not. And we don't want to put a lot of time and effort and get invested if you're never going to show up again. So if you do find that people are not the most friendly the first time around, that might be part of the reason why. So give it a few tries. And just remember, not every group is good for every person. So if you don't enjoy that group, go to a different munch. There's usually always going to be another one. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.